As Raptor fans, we can't wait for this trade deadline to be over. The latest reports, OG Anunoby being asked about the rumors of him wanting to leave, and he addresses those. And right after that, we touch on Precious Achiuwa and his rise and what that means for OG Anunoby and his future with the Raptors. I'm Noor Zainab, next to Jelani Goodride-Reid and Justin Pooni. Guys, right now, after losing last night,
like I predicted.
man.
Like
Justin and I are on the losing side, where Jelani is kind of gaining traction.
No eggs for Jelani.
No eggs.
I know.
I love it.
He will do everything in his power.
In my power. I'm not eating
those
eggs.
Don't forget what
I
the
feel like
Commanders
he's
saw.
making
And the
calls,
Commanders,
alright.
I'm not doing that.
Did you also call Freddie the other day? Be
I
like,
did.
Freddie, I can't
did.
eat eggs. You have to make sure you
So
get
they're
this
gonna,
done tonight.
when I ask them to win, they'll win. When I ask them to lose, they'll lose. So that's how it works.
Adam Silver. There's some definitely unfair play going on here.
You know, it's not right. Well, the Raptors did lose last night to the Phoenix Suns. It was a close game the whole way through. I think it was like pretty much a 10-point game the entire time. 15 lead switches, and Mikal Bridges went off for the Suns. Pretty much had his best game of the season, 29 points. And if we had perhaps the one guy we're talking about today, OG Anunoby, it might have been a little different. But speaking of OG Anunoby, he did speak to Michael Grange. He spoke to him about the latest rumors about how right now the word outside the realm is saying that OG Anunoby is not happy with his role. And OG said, rumors don't bother me. What am I going to do about it? I can't control it, so I get mad at it. It is what it is. So guys, when will OG Anunoby play his last game for the Toronto Raptors?
I've already played his last game for the Toronto Raptors.
I think so.
You guys are getting
Look, like I think
You think he's getting the JV treatment? You know how JV got injured and got
yeah,
shipped
I
out
mean,
right
if
away
I'm
this year?
He's not coming back on the
if
court.
they're fielding,
so
if they're
I think
getting all these massive offers for OG Anunoby, why trot him out on a nightly basis and him get hurt and then ruins everything, right? Look, OG Anunoby would be a great fit for the Phoenix Suns. A great fit for the Phoenix Suns. A great fit for the Portland Trailblazers. A great fit for the Memphis Grizzlies. He'd be a great
New
fit
York.
anywhere in the NBA on a playoff contending team.
New Orleans.
New Orleans, the Raptors can get at least 3 first-round draft picks from him. That is a absolute steal. OG Anunoby is not worth 3 first-round draft picks. And you can thank the Utah Jazz and Minnesota Timberwolves for jacking up the price
Yes.
on players that are not true to that value. Bones Highland is not worth a first-round pick. Rudy Gobert was not worth what he got. If you can get 3 first-round picks for OG Anunoby plus more, I will personally drive him to Pearson Airport myself and drop him off at Air Canada Baggage Customs or whatever that's called and get him out of
Have you been to
town.
the airport before?
Why don't you go to Air
Work.
Transat? I've heard
Nah,
some
bro,
bad
we
rumors
only
about
fly.
Air
Yo, we
Canada.
only fly Air Canada. We only fly. I got the
I go
Aeroplan.
Transat
I'm
or
sure my guy's
WestJet.
got his own
But
private
look-
jet to make sure that he gets there in one piece.
But-
yeah,
But yes,
Before I pass off to you guys, the last thing is, look, OG is clearly annoyed with these rumors. It's the second straight year he's been a talk of these rumors. It has to feel on a guy like this. You forget it. I want to try a new place, a new scenery, get out of here and try something new. And if I'm him, of course I'd be upset too, because I don't want to be answering these questions on a daily basis when I have no control about it. So I think it's time
So,
to...
Jelani, do you think he's about to get the same Jonas Valanciunas treatment
so.
where he got injured and then he was just shipped out during that?
Yeah, sadly, in that situation, I didn't want it to happen. It happened. This one, we saw that he got hurt, right? Hasn't been available for the last few games. Won't be available for the next 2, and then we come back to Toronto. I think at that point, they're going to be like, yeah, you know what? We're fielding the calls now. Because remember, they didn't make him available before. Now I think there's a chance that they're making him available because they're hearing so many more rumors about him leaving. So I think, at this point, I'd be kind of surprised if he played another game with the Raptors. And even, the fans think, the writing's on the wall now. We know it's probably inevitable at this point. So, I think he's done.
Well, he's set to be ruled out until at least this road trip, which is actually coinciding right on they get back the day before the trade deadline.
Right.
So at that point, it'll be interesting to see if OG is a part of the Raptors team, if he's going to be putting on that uniform. But one guy I think that might be able to take that role through, because we've seen in OG's absence, it's been Precious Achiuwa who has come to the surface, right? Where he's having big games, averaging 18 points the last 5 games. He's defending like a nightmare to other teams, but he's also doing it on the offensive glass as well. Do you think losing OG could somehow see some kind of rise in Precious?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be common math. If you do the math right, you sub OG out, put Precious in, it gives him more opportunity, more minutes are available, right? And I believe that when I look at Precious Achiuwa, we talked about it yesterday. There's a lot to work with there. And I think he could eventually grow into being a starter on this team. I'm not saying he's going to be averaging 16 and leading the league in steals like OG Anunoby, but he could be a very prominent piece on this core going forward. And I think that's why we kind of talked about how going forward, he is a guy that the Raptors might deem untouchable. I would still, if you can get the right offer for him, I'd listen to it. But
For Precious.
Exactly. But it would be a lot to get rid of him.
Yeah, I don't even think they entertain that. I think they want to keep Scotty and Precious moving forward. That's why we brought him in the door. You know, in that Miami deal, that was the make or break
Exactly.
for the deal.
I'm not saying they're going to trade him, but what I'm saying is like it would be a lot for them.
Obviously,
you have to listen to it.
Yeah, but I think when we got you know, that trade for Kyle Lowry and then we brought back Precious, I think that was what the Raptors really wanted because that whole roster, the Heat roster, have a lot of good parts to it. But Masai, Bobby, they saw something in Precious. So I think when you talk about the offense, we've seen it. You know, it's here and there, right? Some inconsistency there, but he's getting better, right? Which is good. And then the defensive side of the ball, I'm not expecting him to become OG Anunoby. Okay, OG is one of the better wing defenders in the NBA, so that's a lot to ask for, right? But overall, I do expect Precious to continue to grow. That's what we wanted him in Toronto for because we knew that this development, you know, the system here could help him become, you know, a really good starter at some point down the line, which the Raptors want. So I believe in the development here. And I believe that Precious, he has the tools. He has the tools to become a really solid starter moving forward.
I'm glad you mentioned the offense part of it because I think offensively he's a better and he has more potential than OG maybe in terms of getting those shots up and making those buckets. But I think, as you said, defensively, as great as he is as an on-man defender, he can help that with when OG is gone because he can replicate that on-man defender, the one-on-one ISO defending that happens. But I think in terms of the help defense, the disrupting, the hands, the steals, that's something that's going to be very hard to replicate when OG is gone. But that's also why I think it's very important that no matter what happens in terms of the trades, you bring someone back in who is a wing defender. You have to bring a defender back in, right? Like that's the only way.
A few parts to at least like make up.
Or you're breaking those picks and where you can use the draft to replicate that.
And also Precious is a good rebounder too, which we can't ignore. So I think that really helps the Raptors too.
Are you guys excited for the future without OG and putting Precious up?
Like I like OG. I don't want him to be moved, but at this point,
the future wasn't bright with OG.
I've been saying he's gonna go.
Well, there was one little clip in the game where Masai and James Jones went into the tunnel and
Jay Crowder to Toronto. Confirmed.
I guess so. Cam Johnson, welcome.
I'll take Mikal Bridges if that's the case.
No,
there's
no
no way
chance.
they're gonna do that.
I know.
I'll take Devin Booker.
Yeah.
If you can send over, but I'm not like I know there's rumors about DeAndre Ayton and maybe making that happen for Toronto, but I don't see it.
I don't even see it though.
Even but Dallas is now like coming into the equation for DeAndre Ayton now too. So like the DeAndre Ayton thing is flopped in
But as you guys mentioned, OG, the Suns are one of the bigger teams that are trying to recruit him, along with the Knicks. Of those two, where is a better future for the Raptors and OG?
If I'm the Raptors, I'd send him to the Knicks because the Knicks are going to give me those 3 first-round picks, right? If I send him to Phoenix, I don't have to play him as much anymore because he's going to be in the Western Conference. But do I really want Jay Crowder, Dario Saric, and like another first-round pick? Probably not. So I would send him to New York because you're going to get the best deal for him there. I would do New York.
I do New York as well because, like you said, like Cam Johnson, that's another guy I want, but they're not going to want to move him, right? Because he's so important to that team. You're getting veterans, yes, maybe a few less picks. So that's why I'm looking at New York, the 3 picks, and then they have good young parts. We've been talking about this on the shows a few times. Or New Orleans. I think New Orleans, if they want to call us about it, that's a team that has a lot of good young players, right? Dyson Daniels could help us out. You're talking about
Jackson Hayes.
Jackson Hayes would probably come in that deal.
They still have a bunch of picks.
Graham would probably come in that deal. Picks would be there. We don't know if they'd send us that LA protected.
No, it's not going to be that Lakers pick.
I wish.
No.
I wish. It's not going to be. But they have a lot of good young players that can really help us out, even Murphy. So I'd say New Orleans or New York.
My only thing with that is I think as much as I would like to, like, if you're gonna be going into a rebuild, definitely bring in the draft picks, bring in those guys from
Yes.
New York, and like get those guys molded to your system. I think when you're going to Suns, you're almost doing like, I think when you're doing the Knicks, you're becoming sellers. You're selling OG off to bring
And being
something more
younger.
in.
Yeah.
And going younger, exactly. But then if you're going to the Suns, I feel like bringing in, if you have a potential to bring a guy like Cam Johnson in, you're gonna be both buying and selling at the same time, right?
Yeah.
But that's why I prefer the Knicks. I think the Knicks is the way to go if you want to go building a younger generation of new players on this team now. But my only thing is, and this is exactly why Pop sent Kawhi to Toronto and not to LA, is you're gonna make a conference rival stronger.
Division rival.
Division rivals, stronger by
yeah.
sending OG Anunoby there. And I don't know, like that's gonna hurt quite a bit. A lot of GMs, when they look at their players about trading them, I do believe that the idea of making another team in your conference stronger does go
Yeah, it
through
plays
their
in their
mind, right?
To play
Like,
devil's advocate on that, though, because they're in the same division and conference, Masai can ask for a larger price for OG
For that.
Anunoby, right?
Fair, but I don't even think they want to entertain that. I think if you're asking them, would you rather ship him off west, they're going to do that.
But if you get a
Yeah.
better deal from New York, just send him to New York, right? You got to think
I
what's
know,
the
I know.
best. What's the best
But you're
for the
making
Toronto
your-
Raptors going
I'm trying
forward?
to see what Noor's point was.
I see what her point is
you
too,
know?
but I'm just playing the opposite side
Yeah.
of the card.
yeah, I just don't want to double advocate no matter what happens. I get it. Just wants to be on the other side of whatever I have to say. But over here, we're going to see who ends up winning the trade deadline and which one of us has to either eat eggs, go on social
That's
media
not
and say
happening.
that everybody else knows better basketball than I do, or come to the studio and only sing praises of the Raptors. There's a lot on the line right now for the Raptors and for us. The trade deadline is fast approaching, and until then, we'll see you next time on Homestead NBA, not NBA trade deadline. Homestead NBA.